Why do you go to work above and beyond your paycheck? Why do you go to work above and beyond a paycheck? You do it to make a contribution, to make an impact. Now, here's the interesting thing, and I kind of said it a little bit when Rich asked me the question early on. The more you focus on contribution and impact, the less opportunity you have to experience fear. All of you have heard, probably many of you have heard the idea that when we are in a process of experiencing gratitude, we can't experience fear. They actually tap into different parts of the brain. So if you are experiencing gratitude, that's why, journaling and focusing on things you're grateful for is a great antidote for fear and worry and anxiety. It's because it forces you into a different part of the brain. It takes you out of the prehistoric part of your brain and takes you into the more rational and reasoning part of your brain. Well, the same thing happens with contribution and purpose. I'll share with you a little personal story. I stumbled on a way to access this, which is a little bit unconventional. So my consulting company is 20 years old, and anybody who's ever tried to start a business, and Rich will certainly tell you, it's very all-consuming. And so in the early days, I didn't like to be away from the business for more than a week at a time, much to my wife's great frustration. Even our honeymoon was 5 days long at the time, which gives you a sense of the somewhat obsessive individual that she married. But anyway, about 18 months in, we had an opportunity to go overseas, to go to Italy for 3 weeks. It was the longest time away we would ever had, but it meant leaving our newly born 18-month-old daughter, Isabella, with her grandparents. Now, Bella didn't have a problem with that. She's very close to both sets of grandparents. But as new parents, we were a little more anxious. Now, the way my wife processed this experience being a lawyer was that we should get our wills in order. So a couple of weeks later, I found myself in the lawyer's office envisioning my death, which was very inspiring. And so while we were sitting there, I had this revelation. I thought, if the worst happened, I should probably leave my daughter something more than financial security, right? That's not a lot to leave behind. And given the privileged existence that I've had, the people that I've had the ability to interact with, the things that I have learned, maybe I should write her a letter, if the worst happened, about what I think, what my experiences have been about how to lead a full and rich and happy life. Okay, write down my key lessons. And so I did. I wrote a letter. The next day, I wrote a letter to my daughter. So this is now going on 15 years, 14 and a half years. I wrote that letter to her. And of course, I wrote the letter with the idea of giving it to her one day. But you would all figure out pretty quickly that the letter ended up being much more value to me personally, because what it did was it showed me all the areas of my life where I was not living in alignment with the things that I considered to be most important. So it became an incredible way for me to get much more connected to my purpose and unlock that. Now, I've given that same exercise to hundreds of CEOs and senior executives over the years, and it's a very profound experience for all of them. It's something you may choose to do in a moment, write a letter to a loved one. So the question I have for you to reflect on when you all said and done with all of this and you come back to these notes today, tomorrow, or in a week from now is, what are you going to do to stoke your internal fire? What are you going to do? How are you going to tap into your intrinsic motivation?